Hello, new DJs or DJs just wanting to get more familiar with Sam. I'm DJ Cool Guy, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to work the station. As you can see here on my desktop, this is pretty close to almost exactly what you'll see while you're at the station, at least until we get an upgrade. So, until that time, this is what you'll pretty much see. I'm going to go over every detail of the station's DJ software with you, as well as little troubleshooting steps to fix if maybe you're not going over the air, certain little cues you have to look for, different things. So, first I'm going to go over explaining what all the elements are on this screen that you see right here. So, pretty self-explanatory. You've got deck A, you've got deck B. This is where these are your play decks. When the station's in auto DJ mode, anything that's here in this queue will just play continuously. Now I have scripts that are running that will automatically bring in more tracks once it hits one or two songs. However, we're not going to worry about that too much right now. That'll be later down the road that you'll have to see if those scripts are running if you're not getting any music being pulled in. But the first thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is if you're pulling tracks into the station. Now, if you have music that's actually on the computer somewhere, which is fine, I know a couple of DJs actually do that, makes it easy to come in here if you don't have to bring in a flash drive. Just keep in mind we do have limited storage. So if you're bringing it in, bring it in for that show if you want to. It's also pretty decent to save recordings. So over here you have the playlist window. This right here is where all the music that's on the station is stored. These little folders here that you can see tracks, right? These are some of the music that's on here. On my computer, you got demo tracks, which is just what's over here right now that's loaded in, and then you have this new folder, which is mine. Now, when you go into the station in this browser here, you'll see there's a lot of folders that are there. Whether you see like Caribbean Swing, Rookery en Español, DJ Inca, or so you got different DJs folders are in here. This is usually where you'll get the custom playlists. That's why they're under the playlist section. If you double click the second star here, content, you'll see a whole bunch of little folders open up with these green arrows. All these are where most of everything else for the station is stored. And music is self-explanatory. This is everything that's added to the station. Again, this is only a demo list that I have loaded in here, so you don't see too many, but at the station you've got, I think we have upwards of like 13,000 songs, maybe more. So you can definitely pick from there. Now if you click on this browser, right, and then you start typing, so I want to look up, let's say AC/DC. I just start typing, okay, and this is what brings up my search bar. So now I can, okay, I want to play Highway to Hell. I could drag that into the queue, or I could drag it right into the deck. It'll do either or. Then you got sound effects. Now the sound effects, this is what shows up down on this little bar right here. Now you'll see some of them. A lot of the times what you'll see is you'll see my personal sound effects for my show, and that's usually because I'm the only one who really uses them to my knowledge. Now I encourage you guys to use them if you'd like. It's just my show's a little bit more on the sillier aspect, and I play all my jingles, my opening, my closings and stuff from there. So everybody does it a different way. That's personally how I do it. I'm not saying you have to do it like that, but if you want to do it, all you'll have to do is right click here and create new, and okay, so for myself I'll put okay cool guy, right? So now you have this new folder that should have updated and it didn't, so I'll rename that again. Or maybe it did update and it's just being stupid like it usually does. Now if I refresh down here, you see you have new folder. Now these are all empty because there's nothing in here. But let me go over to my go to my DJ folder. And okay, so this is for one of my other stations I DJ for. If I drag this in over here, right, now it adds that to the queue. So if I refresh down here and I refresh here, okay, so now it starts. So now if I click on this,
you are listening to Hive 365. Non-stop music guaranteed to get you buzzing.
and you can also stop that whenever you want. You can adjust the volumes. For the most part, you don't have to adjust the volume on any of this. The only reason I have any of these volumes over here turned down is because, for demonstration purposes, it's very loud on my headphones, and as I look at the audio levels on my recording software, it's very loud. So I don't want to blow your guys' ears out as you're watching this. Um, but that's how you add sound effects. Again, I have a whole bunch of them, but they only work when my hard drive's plugged in, so they're pretty much dead to use. But there are the defaults loaded in the demo effects folder. So if you hit the menu here and click demo effects, and just click demo effects in general, or you have different categories. So guns, explosions. Okay, you got you know different sound effects you can use. Um, or you could just go to all and you'll see them all. The only difference is you'll see mine mixed in there. You see how that Hive intro is actually mixed in with the rest of these. So if you click on one that's not there, like I have a couple from like Anchorman. Yeah, I think that yeah, I have a couple from different like shows and movies and stuff. So you'll get that, and they won't play. So don't think that the station's broken just because they don't play. It just means that maybe when it's one of my files that's not there. Um, Let me see here. Another. So continuing down this list. So that's the sound effects. That's what that does. Next is station IDs, and if I'm correct, at the moment there's nothing that's used in the station IDs. So you usually don't have to worry about this folder. It might be used in the future, but as of this moment, it's not really used. Then you've got jingles, right? And if I'm correct, in the jingles you've got I think it's 2017, right? And that's I think in the 2017 folder is what it is on the station. You've got all the jingles that are listed here for the station, and I think I have most of those. So it's yeah. So these are our promos and stuff, right? Let me just give it a second to add in. So this is normally where you'll see all of our little jingles and promos that play, like when the auto DJ is playing. I know a couple DJs like to play things like that just to kind of help promote other shows or help promote the station or any of the people that we actually have that pay to get their stuff played. And that's easy enough because all you have to do is, this is one of the ones that's used, is pull it over here and you can play it right in the deck.
You're listening to RookeryRadio.com, Real College Radio.
Right, so this is usually where they're located, and the titles are pretty self-explanatory, so you know which ones go to who. If they're not there, and I'm pretty sure they are in the jingles, they would be in the promos folder, and it's the same thing. You're easily able to just go between these folders. They're pretty easy to get to. There's usually never anything in advertisements. Now, again, in the future, it might be set up a little bit differently. Jingles would be different little things, maybe for show openings and show closings. Promos would be for show promos, like listen to Cool Guy in the Sloth Afternoon Rage, right? That's my show. Or listen to Rookery en Español every Saturday. Those different promos that right now are all just mixed into one big mesh might actually be separated for better organization and scheduling on the script later, but right now they're all pretty much in one folder. The same thing goes for the news. Right now we don't have any automated news lists that play, so the example of this one would be is if you're listening to like Y103 or Rock 104 or any of the radio stations on FM, you'll get those like 27 WFMJ news updates on like every hour. Well, that's pretty much just an automated script that pulls it in there every hour. This would be what that would be for if we actually did that. Interviews is another one that actually saves from this voice tracking, right? So I'll go into that in just a second. And then there's usually nothing in those. For the most part, these last four, there's nothing in there, but I'm just explaining to you guys what they are. Then you got the special, and I'm just gonna say don't even worry about these. Don't really touch them. There's nothing that should be in them, and if there are, it's nothing that really needs to be messed with. Same goes for groups. The groups might make it easier for sorting everything, but this sorts absolutely everything in the library, so it might make it hard for you even sorting it like this. You're probably better off just searching by going up here to music and then just searching. And you can also search. I think if you click over here in the queue, you can also search, and that searches the entire library. So, um, next thing I guess I'll explain is the history box. Right, pretty self-explanatory. This is just the last couple songs I've played. I know personally, even though the song was just playing for the last 3 or 4 minutes, I'll forget what song just played because that's just how my brain works. So this history thing is a nice thing to go by. You know, if I'm playing, okay, this in the news today, right? This is one of the Sam demo tracks.
You're listening to Rookery Radio.
Right. Well, it's down here now. It's been loaded and I've played it over and over again, right? Well, this one here, now that I've played it, it shows up. Okay, I could say, hey, this was Lightwolf with Express. It's, it's not really like it's not a big deal, but it's there so you can see what song was just played. If you want to go ahead and just, maybe you didn't announce it beforehand, you can announce it afterwards, kind of thing. So that's why I find it very handy. I already explained the voice tracking. Basically, if you're going to record an interview or you want to record your show or something like that, you're allowed to do this. Now, if you do that, you just click record. Now this thing is recording, right? And right now it's picking up my voice because of how I have my sound settings set up. No, actually it's not. Never mind. If I have my microphone on, it would do that. But basically what this is doing is it's just recording the show, and once I click stop, okay, now I've clicked stop, and then you would want to store it. And you just have to worry, just hit store only, right? You don't want to queue up that interview. That's only if you recorded an interview before the show, right before the show, and you're going to queue it up, right? Now you're going to save it. Make sure you do not delete this .wav at the end. If it's not there, add it. It is a .wav file, and this is how the system knows what type of file it is so that you can play it later on. And then you name it whatever you want. Right, okay, cool guy interview with viewers, .wav. And then it'll save in the voice tracks folder by default. Now, you have to pay attention to the folder it saves in, right? I think a lot of times Kenny is the one who is doing an interview, if not usually Chris Gunther. And if they were the last ones to use it, it'll usually be in their folder. So what you'll want to usually do is click the little drop down and go to desktop and then just save it here, because then you'll be able to easily access it just by minimizing Sam and then finding your thing. You copy it to your flash drive. Scratch that. Don't copy it, move it. The interviews are one thing that will take up a lot of space, so we, even though we encourage yes, you can definitely record. Don't store them on the computer. They really do take up way too much storage, and they really build up fast. I think last year we had to go through a lot of them, and we ended up clearing up like over 20 or 30 gigs of space just from the interviews alone. So again, you can record them, just make sure you move them to your flash drive or save them directly to your flash drive. Let's see here. Next thing is the fade control, this box right down here. What that is so if you're playing a song and say I want to fade into upbeat Rookery, right?
You're listening to Rookery
It's just an easy fader.
Radio.com.
That's all it is. It's an easy way to fade out and everything like that. Normally the manual crossfade is what you're going to want to use so that you can fade into the next song. That's one of those things you can mess around with. You definitely don't have to use it. I know a lot of DJs, including myself, don't use it on a regular basis. But if you want to, it's there for you to use. Right, next is voice effects. Now this is here, I guess I have to say, purely for decorational purposes. For the most part, we do not use this. On other setups, like myself, I would use this. I would turn my mic on and I would press this, and now you can hear me talk. That is for, I guess, independent setups. Like on my computer here at my house, my microphone directly runs in through my audio card. At the station, we have a more complex setup. Everything is pumped into the audio card, and this is basically rendered useless. So you usually don't even need to touch this. I think at one point we had to use it to like kind of route audio from TeamViewer when we were doing our old like little remote shows like that, but we don't even do remote shows like that anymore. So you don't have to worry about that. Next thing I'll get into here, this is the encoders. Now, the way the station works is that it broadcasts all the sound to a server, and the server is what actually allows the website and the Android app and TuneIn and everywhere else to actually get the audio from the server. You see right now, this encoder says idle, encoder not started. If it ever says that when you come into the station, that means the station is offline. You're not going to hear it anywhere, right? You're basically playing music just to the speakers in the station. So from that point, you'll need to hit the play button. I typed in the wrong password. It's going to say that. Give me 1 second to actually fix this, right? For the most part, that should never be screwed up, so you don't ever have to really worry about it. Right, now I am live. Right, I've now gone live to the station. It says encoding, and it's been encoded for, and then it just gives you statistics. You usually don't have to worry about that. As long as it says encoding, you're good to go. If it gives you some error, now there's some errors that can happen here and there, and I can't even really go into specifics because it could vary. For the most part, if it's giving you an error, click the stop button, click the play button again. It should usually fix. Now, if you're able to hear the music, right, but you're not able to hear your voice, that is because this little record button is not clicked. Again, because of the way that the station is set up, because of the way our microphones are set up, this right here sometimes gets checked, DSP. What that does is basically all the sound runs through SAM locally. Now, on my setup, this works just fine because I use this voice effects. But because of the way our station is set up, we cannot do that because voice effects does not
User joined your
currently
sound muted.
it does not process our microphones, right? The station itself does. So this has to be on this record button. If that button is not pressed, you're just not going to get your voice out to the internet. It's not going to. Sam won't pick it up. So you definitely got to make sure you're clicking on that. And if you want to make sure it's working by doing that, give me a second to adjust my my sound setup, and I'll be able to show you. Well, again, I can show you from here. So you see how I talk? You can see the little levels are kind of fluctuating just a little bit. It's hard to tell. My mic is very quiet, but it's the little bar is going up a little bit. You'll see this more if you actually talk at the station. Basically, it tells you that it's picking you up, right? Outside of being able to hear yourself on the headphones, you definitely got to check the little levels right here. And if you can see them kind of going up a little bit, you know that you're going through to the internet. Right, so I'll explain a little bit on the decks a little bit more while I'm getting over this way. So V is obviously for volume. If you click it, it tells you here. It tells you right what it is, volume control selected. If it's never on this dial, if you don't want to just mess with it, you can just click the little arrow. It'll reset the volumes to default. The P is for pitch. This should always be on this arrow because unless you're mixing around and just playing around with the song, you shouldn't be messing with that as well. Again, this is going to, you don't necessarily have to leave it alone, and by that I'm saying, okay, maybe you want to make maybe you want to make some Chris Brown song sound really, really screwed up and funny. I mean, hey, it might just be how your show goes. It's all you. So you can definitely mess around with that, and that also goes for the tempo, making it slower or faster. Most people don't really mess with it, so it's usually left alone. But volume might need to get adjusted here and there if you have a really, really loud song. Sometimes it can't be helped, but a lot of times if you adjust the automation dial on the mixer, that's all you'll really need to do to fix it, at least for that song. A lot of times these digital controls don't need to be touched. So play, stop, and this is for the next track. These are pretty much self-explanatory. This little button here that has like an angle, a little wedge, this is to fade out the track. So if I click this,
Real college
Be
radio.
sure to register your copy of Sam.
so that basically all it does is it fades it out to the very end. If it's like a 3-minute song, it'll fade it out to like the last 3 seconds right away. The little that look, it's an eject button. You click that, it'll eject the track. You don't need to touch the CP. I'm pretty sure that's if you want to start at a certain point. The equalizer is also something you should not have to touch. These are pretty much set up standard across the board for use with the station, and you don't usually need to touch this. And this is to equalize with the other deck. So you usually don't need to mess with those. We don't have a queue set up, so a lot of times the queue doesn't make a difference. So again, you don't need to really mess with that. Right. Auto DJ, play queue, manual DJ. Whenever you come into the station to do your show, you'll usually see auto DJ mode with this auto recovery checked. And the only reason I'm not checking it is because it'll start playing music. If I click this here, it doesn't like to be silent. The station knows it's supposed to be playing music. So this will come up and it's going to try and start playing unless you cancel it. And it'll probably come up again in another 5 or 10 seconds. If you're doing your show, and maybe you're taking a break, you want to take a 3 or 4 song break. I do that a lot during my show. I'll click the play queue button and it'll just start playing songs in the queue. It doesn't really fade out or anything like the auto DJ does, but it'll still play songs in the queue, so you don't have to worry about clicking the play button at the end of every song. If you're doing your show, you want to be in manual DJ mode. This will stop the automation functions of Sam and allow you to talk, turn on the microphone, let the song play out to the end, and not start another song. This is where a lot of DJs go during their show because it's where they're able to just talk. We have a lot of sports shows that just talk for upwards of 30 minutes to 45 minutes before they play a song, so this really is what they use. When you're done with your show, you should always be putting it back into auto DJ mode. This ensures that my scripts continue to run to bring in the daily playlist, and it also ensures that all of our ads and promos get pulled in at the right times they're supposed to. I'm trying to see here. Right, so sometimes you won't get this layout, right? This layout might be a little messed up. Maybe somebody got rid of this. They don't use this. They don't use this. They don't want to see these, right? Because you can exit out of these windows. If you ever want to go back to the default, up here where it says layout, you'll go to load. You'll load default, right? Mine minimized it because it's being how it is. Because I think the station's a little bit. Oh wait, no, mine's not default. You'll usually hit load default. In my case, I have to load a specific one from my tank because this isn't my normal one. Now, you'll notice this is different. That's okay. It's still here. Next thing I'm going to go into is up here where you see desktops, A, B, and C. These are 3 different layouts, right? They're the same file, the same setup, just different views of it, right? So this is the one you're used to. This is the one I just showed you on. Well, if you don't like this layout, you can also mess with layout B. It still shows you your history. If you're a little more advanced, it shows you the event scheduler. This is something you should not be touching. If you think you're tech savvy enough, you can also see that the event log and see what's going on. Okay, if it says something like maybe you cannot find song, right? You try to play a song and it doesn't have it. Maybe you pulled it from the sidebar here. Well, it might tell you, okay, well, this file was not found. Just a little diagnostic tool for the most part. Most DJs don't usually worry about it. They'll just pull in the song from their hard drive. PAL scripts are where all my scripts running. I accentuate this very clearly. No DJ should be touching these at all. These were set up a very specific way to make sure that the station runs when nobody's there. When people start messing with these scripts is when we get a lot of downtime that was very unnecessary. I've custom written these scripts to run when nobody's there and to keep the station running in case something happens to the playlist. So you should not have to touch those at all. If you think you have to, you should be giving me a call before you do, and I should be telling you what you need to do. Um, this is this is the third desktop. Now you'll notice there's another tape deck here. Now this is an aux deck. It's very different from deck A and B in a sense of it has a couple different bypasses on the equalizer, and it also has a couple different bypasses on the gap killer. Now the gap killer, what that does is it basically removes the dead silence at the end of tracks so that it kind of merges together better. Well, auxiliary tracks could be used for playing jingles that are very short 6 to 10 second jingles, right? It ignores that so that they can play all the way through without cutting off at the end because it thinks it's too soft of a track. It's also got this little simplified clock, even though you've got system time here, and yes, I'm recording this at 3 a.m. because I'm crazy. It's also got statistics relays, which you don't. The statistics relays is something you shouldn't have to touch because it also shows up here. It's the same thing. When you have a statistic relay added, it'll show you how many listeners you have and the peak amount of listeners you have. And it's also got most of the same things. It's just a different order, right? Some people like to see it differently. It's all up to you which one you use. Personally, I recommend you just use A because it's got everything you need and you should have room to do whatever you need to do. But some people might like C. A couple people might like to use B. I personally use A because it's got the voice effects or the sound effects that I use and fade control, which I'll sometimes use. If you've ever listened to my show, I use a lot of sound effects. It's just my thing. I'm trying to think here. Right, so although nobody should be messing around with the settings, if you are and you think that playlist rotation rules, right? If you think adjusting this number is gonna make it, it just shouldn't be at 1. This number is set to 1 for one specific reason. This is dependent on my script. If this is not set at 1, the auto DJ script that I've set up will not run correctly. It will not load anything in there. It is set to load in a specific number of tracks that are in the queue, and if it's not set to 1, it won't work. So for the most part, you shouldn't even be in the settings, but if you do, just keep in mind you know what you're doing, and by that I mean somebody like me or Kenny should have told you what to be doing in there. If you're not on the phone with us, we told you what to do. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need to show you guys on Sam. Right, you can also adjust the volume for the sound effects. So I think I went over most of the troubleshooting because a lot of it stems from this encoder having DSP selected instead of record. So if you have that, if the record is selected and it's still not working, you should have at least sent me a text message in the group chat, or called me directly at this point, because I mean something greater might be wrong, and there's just too many scenarios for me to go over in this video. So this is pretty much the basics of SAM. Right, one more thing. If you create one of these folders like I did, see how this is empty. I'll show you how to add tracks to it. Now keep in mind, if you add tracks to this that are on your hard drive, they will not work unless your hard drive is plugged in. All this does is it's basically like creating a shortcut. So it's creating a shortcut like you would on your desktop. So if your hard drive's not plugged in, or your flash drive or whatever you're using, it won't be able to play it. In order to do that, you'll just right click here, you'll click add, and now you can add individual files or you can add entire directory. So in this case, I'm going to add an entire directory. I'll go to Michael's songs and I'll add, let me add all of Boston, right? It'll include subdirectories. Now it's going to scan every folder and every directory, and you see it's going to take a little bit because it's scanning recursively. It's going through all of this, and this is a complete discography of Boston, so it might take a second. Right, so now that's 47 tracks. Now these are all here, and I can pull it over and it'll play. So that's pretty, right there. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple forward. You can also create subfolders, right? So here's my folder. Maybe I want to create a new folder within here. Maybe this is just rock music, right? And maybe I want to create another folder that's just dubstep, or maybe, yeah, so dubstep. So you can kind of partition your songs out a little bit, make it easier in your mind to find it. Or maybe you just want to throw everything in this folder. Hey, whatever works for you. Again, that's all a matter of preference. I don't think there's anything else that I need to show you guys. If any questions come up, you can always post a message on the Facebook group. I cannot guarantee that I'll see it right away. Somebody else might be able to answer it though. You can always send a message in the Rookery Radio group chat. If you are not added to that, you need to get a hold of either myself, Kenny, Chris, Christina, or Nasir. One of us can add you to the group. And it's pretty easy to add. It's just a small group texting thing to where you can get notifications if you don't want to use Facebook. Everybody's got their preference. You can also contact me directly. 330-817-6659. You shoot me a text with who you are and what's wrong, and a lot of times I will respond to you right away, if not coming directly to the station, because I'm on campus. I'm pretty much on campus Tuesdays and Thursdays this semester, which is spring 2017. Depending on when you're watching this video, that schedule could definitely be outdated, but if you text me, my number never changes. So, pending any possible updates, which you'll probably see in annotations on YouTube, this is DJ Cool Guy signing off for the morning. Yes, because it's 3 a.m. I'm crazy. One more thing. So if you come into the station and it's just not there, but you hear music playing, so Sam doesn't show up down here when it's minimized like every other application. You have to open up the notification bar, and you'll see the little Sam symbol. Just double click that and it'll open up the station. So that'll open it up for you. You cannot minimize the station. You exit out, but it doesn't actually exit out. The only way you can exit Sam is by hitting File and going to Exit. So don't be scared to minimize it by doing that. Although I have noticed that that lately, what people have been doing is when they open up the Firefox window, it's actually lowered, so you can still see Sam in the background. So usually most of the time don't need to minimize Sam either, because you could just click back here and then open up Firefox and go back and forth, which is a pretty good idea in my opinion. Makes it easy. Now I think I've covered everything I needed to. So this is DJ Cool Guy signing off for the night. If you guys have any questions, feel free to text me or give me a call at 330-817-6659, and good luck with your shows.